Look out, guardsmen. An amphibious assault can happen any minute.
Commissar, look for the green glow, the Nurgle trap!
Damn it to the warp. That's the 5th Private Jenkins this week. Is it, could it be Necrons? No, he said it came from the swamp. I'm painting not 1, not 2, but 4, and I will show you how to make them look just like this. Step 1, we are going to base all of that green armor with an undertone of Rhinox hide, which has a slight nice red tone, and it's going to look really good for that rust underneath. We are going to use Dawnstone to paint all of that little clothes that's underneath the armor. I did prime this in Mechanicus Standard Gray, and as you can see, I'm almost doing little lines to the end to make it look like there is a little bit of clothes and creases within the material itself. If you did get brown on this section, it really doesn't matter because I got brown on it and I left it and it still looks good. You just want it to be darker than the Dawnstone that you're using right now. We are going to go ahead and use a lighter gray like Administratum Gray, and like before, we're just going to do little lines, really focusing on the front area this time and little lines towards the edges. If you have not used the Vallejo German Gray, you are missing out. This is one of my favorite paints if you guys have not used it. Now on that cape on the back, we're going to make this look all rusted, not rusty, but all weathered and stuff. So you're gonna go ahead and base all of that in that German Gray, as well as those little canisters on the back, staying away from edges and sharp points because we want it to look like there's rust in between. We're also gonna go ahead and do all those little metal parts like the chains and the gun if you have that on your miniature. It is time to do that green armor, and we'll be using Deathcore Drab because I absolutely love the color and I love DKOK. You want to make sure that your paint is watery. This is going to be on like a glaze. So if you're using a wet palette, add a little bit of water to it, or if you're using paper plate, just use more water to it. Get the excess off your brush on the side of a plate. You want the substance to be like an ink-like substance. You're then just going to go over all of those brown areas that we did in that Rhinox hide. And you can also build up highlights on there once it dries, and it dries very quickly. You want to focus on areas that's protruding more and towards you. So like on the front, you want this to be a little brighter, but then those edges and where armor plates meet, those are areas that you want to be darker in that Rhinox hide. And you can build up the highlight to be brighter here. Now for like on other armor piece where it doesn't have that sharp point that you want to be brighter, you're just gonna focus kind of stippling in, making it brighter on that front and staying away from those edges, but brightening up kind of around that armpity area. You're then going to go to the shield, which this is a much larger area, and you're going to want to use a larger brush because that's going to help the blending just that much more. And you're just going to stipple and tap it in all over it, staying away from all of those little corners and creases. Now it is time for highlights, and we're going to be using Straken Green. You want this to be an ink-like substance, so you're going to add some water to your plate and get that excess off using a sharp edge. If this is your cone head, you really want to focus along that middle area, making it brighter, and then you can always just use like a dry brush to help blend it out to the outer edges. I even just kind of tapped it in along those top ridges to make that brighter, still staying away from where that top piece kind of meets that cone head shape. And you're going to want to do this all over the armor, making it brighter in the middle areas that you just did in that Deathcore Drab, and staying away from the sharp, or you want to do sharp edges, but you don't want to put it where you have in some of those brown areas or where those armor plates are meeting. Now, as you can see, the highlight is going to be pretty bold, and we want to blend this just a little bit more. You're going to go back to the Deathcore Drab, and you want it the same consistency as that Straken Green. You're then just going to put that very watery substance over that brown into that lighter green, and it's going to help blend in all of those colors, and it's a really easy trick, and it looks great. highlights on the cape, we're gonna start off with Mechanicus Standard Gray. Get yourself an ugly misused brush or just a dry brush. Get the excess off using a paper towel. And then along those edges, you're just going to force that brush along all those edges, making it much brighter on the ends of the cape. And you also want to focus on those protruding areas where you have those folds. If it's a large or flat surface, make sure you do a little tapping in there as well. Now without dry brushing, with the full paint on your brush, you're going to really focus along all of those edges, making it look ununiform. You just want to brighten it up and make it look like a whole bunch of little messy scratches and everything like that. I also did this on the most protruding areas, like on the folds, and occasionally just a little bit on those flatter surfaces. Now for brighter highlights, we're going to be using Dawnstone, and with that same brush, you're going to, with the full paint on your paintbrush, you're just going to stipple it or just kind of like tap it in along all of those edges, really forcing your brush onto there, and then do some sparing taps on the most protruded areas on that cape. For the chains, you're going to use lead belcher, and you're just going to want to hit all of those little areas, still wanting that dark gray as that undertone. I just used this weird kind of brush that looks kind of like a, I don't know what that is. It's like a dry brush thing. Or you just use the side of a paintbrush. We are going to wash the whole mini in Agrax Earthshade or just any brown wash. Now on those gray areas that's like on the legs and the arms, you're going to get yourself a dry brush, and while that Agrax Earthshade is drying, you're going to brush off that wash on that front area, and now your front area is going to be all highlighted and the edges are going to have this nice gradual dark change. We're going to go back to striking green just for some edge highlights and light scratches. This can be easy if your paint is an ink-like substance, so just add a little water to that mix. I just use the side of my brush to hit some of those edges, and then I just kind of lightly hit those scratches by going distance and slowly going closer and closer to the armor. It is time for rust. We're going to be using Troll Slayer Orange, and you want to water this down until it becomes a wash-like consistency, so very, very watery. And you're just going to want to put it to where there's anything touching that is pretty much on the metal, like on the armor or those canisters. You're going to get your paintbrush and you're just going to glide it in there. And because this is watery, it wants to seep into all those little crooks and crannies on there. And you can even just get yourself a dry brush and blend it in so it looks like those little hues of orange kind of coming down, and that could be your rust. You can even add little light lines of orange, and because it's so watery, it's going to look like little transparent rust stains coming down on that armor. Make sure you get in on those canisters on the back, and on that shield, I did this pretty quickly because it's really easy to do, and you're just going to go around all of those little edges where the armor plates meet, and I even just did lots of little light lines throughout, and that little separation of color on that armor, and especially on that green, is going to look really, really good. Now for those glowing eyes, we're going to get bold titanium white or just a pure white. You want to make sure that it's just slightly watery so that it's easy to actually put on your mini. I went ahead and did those little lights around the head and all of those little light holes where those eyes are. To seal in this glow, we're going to be using Nature Green by AK Interactive Ink, which these ink lines are absolutely great for glow effects. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put that in all of those little eye holes that we just did. Now you can get yourself a dry brush and you're just going to soak up those little excess that's inside of those little eye holes. And this is going to make it brighter on the inside, like a little light green, and a little bit darker along the outside. And it's going to go ahead and create a natural little light green glow that's super easy to do in the eyes. I also did it around the head. And if you want, just get some of the excess off or water down the ink just slightly and just slightly tap it along the side of the head to make it look like a little bit of green is glowing onto that little bit of a cone head. Remember, it is heresy not to like, subscribe to this video. And I also just built the Sanguinor. Just kind of felt like it. And I've actually never painted NNN, non-metallic metallics, in gold. So I'm pretty excited to try that out. And if it turns out really well, then I'll make a video on it. So look forward to that. And that's it. Bye!